Today is May the 28th, 2015. We're out at Spinks Airport once again. Today we're going to attempt to get these wings rigged on this Pietenpol. We've kind of fallen down on working on this airplane because of other projects. So we just decided to just take a day and make the effort to get it rigged. And we've got to glue in a couple of wooden pieces that broke off of the inspection, that square inspection hole right up there. We've got to glue that in. It's got nut plates on it. So anyway, and we may pull it out and run it. It just depends. We've been having a month of torrential rains down here in Texas, so you know the grass runway has been inoperable, and I haven't been able to fly the Cubs since we went to pick up, or let's see, when was it when we delivered that other Pietenpol? Let's see, when was that? Several weeks back. But anyway, the grass runway over here is so wet that we can't use it, and over here at Spinks, I refuse to mix my Cub up with jets and big twins and things like that on the paved runway. It's just not safe. So I only used the sod runway, so I haven't been able to fly it in a while. Anyway, the task for today is to get this baby's wings rigged.
Well, that thing is pretty stable there. Fall down.
We're gluing in this wooden piece here that has the nut plates on it.
You can't reach screws now, can you?
Yeah, it's sort of awkward.
Well, we can just take the we can subtract the differences there.
Trying to level the airplane.
We're up high enough now to hold it.
Let's scoot it here.
There.
Now that's pretty close. Down, or leaving it good. This was leading it down.
Got some twist in it.
A slight little bit, not much. And I figure, hey, it's a Pietenpol. We got.
Yeah, well, we don't know if the wing is actually horizontal either.
Well, we can rig that out. There's turnbuckles here.
Yeah.
Let's rig it out to zero.
Fuselage is down a little bit.
Is it?
We're looking at about 2 degrees down up there, so it ought to be about 2 degrees down back here. It's maybe 1 more degree, so it's only about a degree out.
Well,
this side is pretty much straight. That one, you can back off and see that one, Mark.
Yeah.
The leading edge is dropped a little bit. gonna say we need to get a board. Do I have a
Okay, we're trying to determine what the cord line is and what kind of a shim we've got to put on the board on the leveling board or the rigging board. How much of a shim we've got to put on it. Hey Jim? You can't do that like that, Jim. You have to take into account the cord line. We're going to have to put a shim right here, 1 inch.
Okay, well, just want to see what it is here. Sure. Problem is, it's hard to remove. Okay, that's where the bottom. What my time frame is, what they're gonna do.
And we're going to cut the 1 inch shim for our rigging board.
But I heard you got to be in the right place, skewers or something else.
Take that to the bandsaw.
Okay, if this is 3 degrees, and this is 0, we're going to take that 3 degrees at the bottom, which is the bottom.
Boy, that blade is worn out. Head blade?
Yeah.
Blade is
I just
its
have to
last
think,
days.
did the guy make any comments to you about whether? So maybe. Mark, we can't change the bang emitter. This thing kind of hard to find the exact place, Mark, because you get in between. You get in between the ribs and the fabric has distorted.
Here, get over here on this side so the camera can get you.
Oh.
I'm gonna make you a star.
Well, that's the same thing.
That's perfect.
It looks like it's dead on across there.
I'd say leave it at that.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Man, that worked out perfect.
Yeah. Well, none of the bolts stretched or shrunk.
Yep.
talking about flat washers, Mark?
Yeah.
Couldn't find all the flat washers.
Hey, Jim,
Yeah.
let me borrow your fingers for a minute. I don't
Need to
know.
do.
I don't know. Well, I need that held. It's like working with an Adel clamp.
There you go.
Just a pain in the neck.
Right?
There we go. All right. That's it.
Well, you asked about that problem.
I put the flat washer under the nut. Right, Mark?
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect.
I'm surprised. I talked to Bob Steinman. I had not been able to get him, and he sounded really good.
Who?
Bob Steinman, the guy that owns the ear coop, had his leg taken off. He. Uh-oh. I think. No, it is. It goes this way, Mark. Pull it tight. See that? That.
Okay.
Hey, I need to know if you have ever heard a rumor about an airplane in West Texas in a hangar full of junk, and it's Happy Spinks over there for a match. I thought the thing was at Oshkosh, and it winds up that it is not. It's somewhere in. Okay. Bill wanders around out there all the time. I thought he might know. Joe's got it.
Who?
Joe, the son, called him and said, let me get Joe. Look. Wow, a lot tighter than it looks like when you snap it.
Yeah. I think that'll do. This is the double safety wrap.
Pardon me?
I'm talking to the camera.
Oh.
got any bolts that are a size longer than those?
No, I can't find any.
Well, maybe I've got some, I don't know, I'll check.
They're fours. You need 417s.
Boy, that's some sticky stuff.
You have some?
Yeah.
See, no place for the real bolts.
Let that dry a little bit. Just about to get her.
Yeah. Got that one, got to get that one over there. Where's the key is? There's a screw, long screw up here on top. On the horizontal stabilizer. It's back all the way out. That, I think that needs some attention.
Where at?
This screw right here on this side.
Oh, it's backed out.
Yeah, I ain't mistaken, I think Jim said something about that a little while back.
Coming back for the next EAA meeting. Can you come around here and get it? I'll pick it up. You can pull that out. Oh, Mark's got it. Mark's got it. Okay, everybody clear? one's right.
Well, that work session was very productive. We got a lot done. The airplane is getting closer and closer to being ready to fly. We got the wings rigged. We got new wing bolts, attach bolts in it. The wing strut drag, anti-drag wires are all tensioned and safety wired. The airplane is extremely close to being ready to fly. And hopefully we'll have one more work session out there, and then perhaps we'll get it test flown. Now, sort of as a postscript to this, something has come up out at Spinks that has a lot of people really upset. The city of Fort Worth, of course, as most people know, the people that run the airport are not airplane people for the most part. They're business people, and their whole idea of running that airport is to make money. Well, you know, Spinks has never made money. It just hasn't. We have a fuel vendor. Well, it's Harrison Aviation on the west side of the airport. They are the fuel vendors. And on the east side, we have a fuel island. Well, the gas prices are so ridiculously high that we can jump in our airplanes, and I don't know why I got on this. This is kind of a tangent, but most of us just jump in our airplanes when we need fuel and fly over to Granbury or fly to Hillsboro or fly to Cleburne, and good gravy, you can get fuel for nearly $1 cheaper. Well, anyway, getting back on subject, the powers that be decided that they would hire a consulting firm by the name of Rocket Red. And they called a meeting, an airport meeting, with the tenants. And of course, a lot of the tenants never found out about it, but Jim and I and Harry Phillips and several others found out about it and went over there and listened to what they had to say. The airport manager was there, his assistant, and the two very lovely ladies from Rocket Red, the consultants, were there. And it turns out that the airport manager obviously is under the gun from his management to make that airport start making money. His job, I got the feeling that his job depends on that airport being able to make some money. And if it doesn't, I've got a feeling like he's going to be replaced. Anyway, they've got this consultant, and the consultant came up with this big, bright idea that they wanted to change the name of Spinks Airport. Well, I mean, that is almost sacrilege, in my opinion, and most people that know anything about Pappy Spinks and the old Oak Grove Airport are all up in arms. I've heard that this story has gone nationwide, and people are really raising a lot of Billy Kane about it. Well, I wanted to read a letter that the president of the International Aerobatic Club sent down to one of the members who was at the meeting. And he put on a very good presentation for the cons of why we don't want the airport name changed. And so giving credit to Michael Hewer, the president of the International Aerobatic Club, I'm going to read this letter. And he knew Pappy, him and his dad. I knew Pappy when I was a boy. I could tell some stories about that, but anyway, he was a really colorful guy. And let me just read this letter that he sent down to be read at the meeting. He said, "Hello, everyone. I was disappointed to hear the news that the Sphinx name may be removed from the airport in Fort Worth. I knew Pappy Sphinx and can tell you with absolute certainty that his influence on American aerobatics was enormous, and he was one of the key people in the revival of aerobatic competition in the United States." Now, this was back in the 1960s, though that contribution has not always been fully recognized. Below is a picture, and I'll show the picture in a moment. Below is a picture taken at the EAA Aerobatic Contest in Harvard, Illinois in 1968. This competition, sponsored by the EAA and its president, Paul Poberezny, before the International Aerobatic Club's formation and the EAA moved to Oshkosh from Rockford. From left to right is Peggy Susie. Let me see here. Well, we'll get into that in a moment. Left to right is Peggy Susie, wife of L. Paul Susie and mother of Jean Susie, Pappy Spinks, Bob Hewer, and Curtis Pitts. This was the first year that we met Pappy, though his reputation preceded him. He was a wealthy and successful man and head of M.H. Spinks Enterprises, as mentioned elsewhere. He took over the reins of the Aerobatic Club of America as its president and held an invitational aerobatic contest featuring all the luminaries of the day at Oak Grove Airport in 1967. The Nationals was still held in Reno that year. Because of its success and Pappy's backing, the U.S. Nationals moved to Oak Grove in 1968 and was held there through 1971. In 1972, it moved to its current location in Sherman-Denison, Texas. I remember the Nationals when it was held out there at Oak Grove Airport, and I remember meeting some of the big names of aerobatics back then. I remember Leo Loudenslager flying in the first version of that, the Steven Zacro. He flew in that blue Steven Zacro with a great big old bubble on it. And Leo was just a little slip of a boy, it looked like. Of course, he was older than me, but he flew real well that year. But getting back to the letter, Pappy put his full financial support behind the Nationals and the ACA, which was a huge impact because members were few and treasuries were rather small. The first rule book for sanctioned aerobatic competition was published by the ACA in 1968, giving organizers their first real set of rules that could be used nationwide. Until then, each contest had its own set of printed rules. Pappy Spinks was also a huge collector of aerobatic airplanes, and I can remember admiring his Bucher Youngmeister, his Chipmunk, his Clipwing Cub, and he also later owned the Cryer Craft, a Pitt Special, November '66 Yankee, which Bob Herendeen flew at the World Aerobatic Championships in 1966 in Moscow. And he had others. He brought many of them to Rockford for the EAA fly-in and drove in his enormous RV, which were pretty scarce back then. I was astonished at the time that the vehicle had its own APU. Pappy was a strong leader, and though we parted ways in 1970 and formed the IAC, I can remember a conversation at the bar between him, my father, and me sometime in the 1980s in Fond du Lac during the IAC championships. By then, all was well and we renewed our friendship. Pappy should be remembered for helping make the sport possible that we enjoy today. It would be a tragedy for aerobatics and aviation if his name was removed from this airport, Mike Hewer. And, I've got to agree completely with that. Pappy was a huge, huge influence on aviation around here and nationwide. And for the city of Fort Worth to try to change the name to something like Fort Worth South Regional or Fort Worth South Executive, just so the airport would sound more business-like to try to draw in more business people, is kind of goofy. If they want to change the name, I mean, good gravy, leave the heritage name in there, Spinks. Change it to Spinks Executive, maybe, if they've just got to do something like that. But anyway, a lot of people are upset, and I just wanted to let my viewers know kind of what was going on, because I know most of y'all, or a lot of y'all, remember the old Oak Grove Airport. You remember stories of Pappy Spinks, and some of those stories were legendary. He was really a character, I'm telling you. And anyway, even in the early days, he was an avid model airplane flyer. So anyway, I just want to throw that out, let you know, and maybe, if you would, some phone calls to the Fort Worth Airport Authority, maybe the Spinks Airport manager, stating your concern and your disagreement as far as the name change. Okay, let me show you these pictures, and I hope that they show up well. And then I've got a sticker and a matchbook cover that came from back in the 60s that I'll show you. Okay, here is the picture. I hope it's showing up all right. This lady right here is Mrs. Susie. That one. That is Pappy Spinks. There is Mike Hewer's dad. What was his name? Bob Hewer. And right here is Curtis Pitts. Pretty neat old picture. And then in the back, I have a picture. This is Pappy Spinks. Looks like he's got a rat racer control line model right there. And then over here, it looks like maybe he's got a Playboy Senior free flight. And then this is one of the antiques that he restored. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys out there, maybe gals, will remember this. This is an old sticker from the old Oak Grove Airport with a depiction of the Spinks Acromaster on it. Boy, those things are rare as hen's teeth nowadays, but I happen to have one, and I've got it in the back of my logbook in plastic. And then the other day, I got an email from an old friend of mine, Patty McConaughey, whose dad was he was an airplane buff, and he would go out, he knew Pappy Spinks, and he would go out there all the time. And anyway, her dad passed away, and I guess several years ago. And anyway, several weeks back, she was going through some of his effects, and she came across this matchbook cover from, good gravy, probably sometime in the 1960s. And she asked me if I wanted it, and man, oh man, I jumped on it. I mean, I'm going to put that in plastic in the back of my logbook too, because you just don't find those anymore. It's an old matchbook cover, the old telephone number. So bless her heart, she sent that to me as a gift. And she's quite a gal. I appreciate it, Patty. Thank you a lot. So I guess this is going to wrap up this little offering, this little episode. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully before too long we can get that Pietenpol ready to fly and go out there and get some good video of it. So I hope you liked the video, and you guys take care out there, okay?